Okay, everybody. So we are going to get started. Hope everyone can see kitchen. All right.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Jacqueline. I'm registered dietitian for Food Town Stores. Thank you so much for joining me today on this really fun cooking demonstration. We have some housekeeping that I always like to talk about just before we get started. So we have just another minute or two as I see many of you popping on. I'm so excited to have a big crowd. That always gets me super jazzed. So for one, all of you are pre-muted as you come in, and that allows the camera to focus in on the kitchen demonstration. So if you unmute for some reason, please remember to mute back because otherwise the camera will refocus on wherever the sound is coming from. Second is your video is on. It's available for me to see. If you prefer to have no video, that's totally fine. You can just click the no video on your side, and it'll just be, kind of blacked out. The third thing is I'm riding solo. So I do these by myself. So I really don't have anyone that can go over and check the comments. So periodically, when I find a good place to stop in the cooking demo, I'll go over and see if there's any comments that I need to either answer questions or something that maybe somebody missed. But just remember that it is being recorded today, so you will get the recording as well as the recipes. Sorry, I just need to lower the heat here on our pan. As well as the recipes, which you'll be getting in your inbox as well, okay? So without further ado, let's talk about what we're here to do today. So today we're going to talk about some better for you summer classics. So there's so many summer classic American recipes that are so delicious and so awesome. And I'm sure we all look forward to grilling and maybe eating some different foods in the summer. So today what we're going to do is we're going to start with a lemon dill salmon skewer. So I have some fresh salmon here. I talk to lots of consumers who really enjoy fish over the summer because it feels really fresh. And when we grill it, it really kind of takes on a life of its own. We're going to add some delicious lemon juice, a little zucchini, as well as some dill. And we're going to be putting them on skewers. If you don't have, we actually sell these in our store, but you could easily use wooden skewers if you have those on hand. And then the next recipe we're going to do is my garden potato salad. Now, I see potato salad at pretty much every barbecue and event that I go to. So this is going to be something a little bit fresher, a little bit less mayonnaise-y. Actually, there's no mayonnaise in this one. And we're going to be adding in some veggies, hence the garden potato salad. And then our last one is I always like to have something sweet. So we're going to be doing grilled peaches with a spiced yogurt sort of sauce on top, which you're going to love. If you haven't had grilled fruit over the summer or even in the winter, it works well too. It really brings out those delicious sweet flavors. So I think you're going to love that. So let's get started. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get our potatoes going. Now we're using these little new baby potatoes. This happens to be from the Little Potato Company, but any baby potatoes will do. I have a mix of gold and red potatoes. So I'm just going to put them right behind me in a pot of water. So these only really need about 5 minutes because they are so tiny. So they cook up super fast. So in the water, we just dump these in. Okay, so let me set a quick timer. So these, again, like I said, only require about 5 minutes. I love potatoes. Potatoes are super nutritious for us. They're a good source of vitamin C, which a lot of people don't realize. They're also a good source of potassium. They have fiber. They're super filling. They're such a great food for us. So what we're going to be adding to our water, once those are just about done, we're going to add in some green beans as part of our veggie mixture that we're adding in. So we'll let those start cooking, and then in a couple minutes we'll add in our green beans. So the green beans, let me just Sorry, let me just start getting the bag open. The green beans, really, you just want to kind of have them blanched. I wouldn't say you want them to be overly cooked. You want them to have a little bit of bite. If that bothers you, you can always cook them a little bit more if you prefer that, okay? So that's going to be our potato salad. So like I said, we have our potatoes going and then we're going to drain them. Now this is going to be a cold salad. So you do want your potatoes to kind of cool off a little bit as well as your green beans. But you can always hit it with an ice bath or just some cold water, running water from the sink. That really works. Get it all dressed up and then you can pop it in the fridge until you're ready to serve it. So I think this works great for parties, especially when you're trying to like put a few things together in advance, okay? All right, so let's get started with our salmon skewers. So with the salmon skewers, we're gonna be, so I have some fresh salmon here. You wanna make sure that you're getting a thick piece of salmon. So when I order, if I'm doing home delivery, I always request that my shopper do center cut. So I always say no tail, center cut on the salmon so that you get a nice thick piece. You can also ask the fish monger to remove the skin. This is personal preference. For skewers, I don't like the skin on my salmon, so I do ask them to remove it, or I remove it myself, which is kind of what I did today because I forgot to ask. And then we're just going to cut it into cubes. But before I do that, because I'm going to get my hands dirty, we're going to make a little mixture of our fresh dill. So anytime you get home from the grocery store and you've got your fresh herbs, you simply must wash them so that they're ready to go when you are. There's nothing worse, right? Then you're about to cook and you're like, oh, the parsley's not washed, the cilantro's not washed, this is not washed, and I don't feel like dealing with it, right? So I always like washing my herbs. I don't run into that issue. Okay, I think please. Otherwise, everybody's gonna get sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody, please do not unmute. Okay, there we go. I found it. Okay, just a reminder, please don't unmute because then everyone is going to get feedback, okay? All right, so let's get some fresh dill going. This smells so good. If you don't have fresh dill on hand, you could easily use dry dill. That works fine. And, you know, this is cooking, so you don't have to be super precise. Just kind of go with what feels good. Let me move some of my ingredients so that you can see what I have going on. So then with the dill, you just kind of want to fold it over so that it easily can be chopped, okay? So here we go. All right, now I like dill, so I'm going to make sure I have myself a nice little hearty portion here. Okay, and now we're going to just toss that into a bowl. All right. Then we're going to be adding a little bit of garlic powder. Just about a teaspoon here works. Okay, get that going. So that stays there. And now we're ready to cut up our salmon. So with the salmon, as I mentioned, I'm just going to move this to the side. We want it to be in little cubes. So what I would recommend is kind of making little strips just like this and then turning it and then cutting your little cubes. However you want to do it works just fine. But you know, you don't want them to be too tiny and you don't want them to be too big. So use your judgment. I would say like inch size pieces pretty much works well. All right, so here we go. All right. And simple as that. All right, so now we're going to grab a bowl, get our salmon in here, right? Make sure we've got our pieces. Okay. All right. The other thing you can do, if you're familiar with Zoom and how Zoom works, is there is a little icon to raise your hand. So if you do have a question, you can kind of raise your hand. I should be able to see you. So then in your salmon, you want to go ahead and add in your dill and your garlic, and we're going to season with salt and pepper. Okay, so again, use your judgment on the salt. I like to kind of just eyeball it Some people are salt sensitive. We talked about this at our last cooking demonstration, and this is just fresh black pepper. If you're salt sensitive and you really can't have a lot of salt because maybe you're struggling with blood pressure, or you have kidney disease, then you can omit the salt. The rest of the seasonings should provide enough flavor, okay? And then because we want everything to come together, we're just going to use just a touch of olive oil to bring all the seasonings together so that it adheres to our salmon, okay? So we're going to give that a toss. And we're going to let this hang out while we prep the rest of our ingredients. Okay, so it's really easy. This is so simple. All right, so here's our salmon. We're going to let that hang out. Just grab my towel. And now we're going to cut up our lemons. So with this recipe, what we're going to be doing is we're going to thread the salmon with a slice of lemon and a zucchini. Okay, so it's a really simple, pretty simple recipe, but it really is so fresh and full of a lot of flavor. Now, how thin do we want to go here? We actually want to go pretty thin where it's kind of like wiggly. This lemon is so juicy. It's awesome. And then when we thread it, we're actually going to be folding it over. So that's why you want it to be on the thinner side. Okay. So let's start putting these aside. And I do need to check on the potatoes. So let me do that now. So with the potatoes, you want them to be soft enough when you pierce them with a fork, the fork goes through, but we don't want it falling apart because we're not making mashed potatoes, right? We're making a potato salad. So let's check it out. Actually use one of my skewers here. So actually these need, I think these still need another couple of minutes. So let's put on 3 more minutes there. And while that's going, now is a good time to add in our green beans, okay? So now that the potatoes have softened a bit, we're gonna go ahead and add our green beans so that they can start cooking. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's going. All right, so let's continue with our lemons. We'll move that aside. Let me reheat my pan here. Okay. All right, that should do it. And now with our zucchini, so we don't want the zucchini to be too thick because the salmon is going to cook in about probably 5 minutes or so. And the zucchini can tend to take just a little bit longer. Now, this is a matter of preference, right? If you like your veggies cooked a little bit more soft, then I would say make them thinner. If you like them with a little bit more bite, then I would say make it thicker. I'll show you how I'm going to do it. So mine are probably about 1/4 inch thick. So just like this, okay? So we'll just set those aside. And I'm actually going to be cutting mine in half in moons because when we grill them up, the skewer will just lay a little bit better on the pan, okay? So we'll put those aside there. Let me do a couple more. Okay, how's everybody doing so far? We're doing okay? All right, awesome. So that should be good there. All right, so we're gonna take our skewers. Now, if you're using metal skewers, if you're using wooden skewers, remember that you need to soak them. The reason why we soak our wooden skewers is so that they don't scorch on the grill. So obviously we're not outdoors today. For one, I don't have an outdoor grill in my kitchen, but for two, as you know, the air quality is horrible today. So I'm going to be using an indoor grill pan. So let me show you what that looks like if you don't have one. I actually had this one for years. I think I got it for my bridal shower many, many moons ago. But it's just, it's just a simple pan with grill grates on it. It's nothing fancy. You could even just throw it under the broiler, if that's, a more feasible option for you. Okay. So that's the grill pan that we're going to be using. So the way that you're going to do your skewer is I want you to just take a piece of salmon, just put in a salmon. Remember, we said we are going to fold over our lemon. Then we're going to add in our zucchini. There we go. Another piece of salmon, another piece of lemon, and add another zucchini to kind of pull it all together, okay? And I think we have room for another piece of salmon, right? We don't want to be skimpy. We don't want to be skimpy at our next barbecue. Doesn't that look gorgeous? I'm so excited to make these. Okay, so let's continue with a couple more. So lemon, and I'm a big fan of consistency. And I'm a big fan of like kebabs and skewers and things like that, because I think that it adds a really fun element to a meal. It looks really nice. It's pretty much kind of a fun kind of food. I think that most people enjoy. I have young children, they get a kick out of it. So I do enjoy making all kinds of different skewers. If you follow our blog on foodtown.com on Eat Well, I recently did a meatball skewer for the 4th of July. So that hasn't come yet, but it'll be on our blog, so you can check that out. Okay. All right. So we'll make a couple more here. I don't love that lemon. Hold on. I got to cut another one. That one's falling apart. All right. And then we'll check on our potatoes. Okay. There we go. And then one more piece of salmon. Yum. That one's a little too big. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Okay. How we doing so far, everybody? Good? We're doing good? Okay, perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a little bit of cooking spray here, because we don't want these to stick. And we're going to put these on. All right. They starting to sizzle. There we go. All right. Perfect. Okay. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do is let's check on our potatoes to see how we're doing there. And then we'll kind of get this all cleaned up and we'll move on to the next recipe. Okay. So let's check these out. All right. These are clean. Oh, perfect. All right. So now we're good. Now we are good. Okay, perfect. So I have a sink right over here. So I'm just going to drain these. And as I mentioned earlier, you really want to run these under cold water because you want to stop the cooking process, but we also want these to be cool enough to handle, right? So there we go. Okay. Whew. Getting a steam bath over here. All right, so we're going to let this cool off just a little bit. And then we're going to start tossing all of our ingredients for our potato salad together. Now, this potato salad really couldn't be easier because we're just chopping up our veggies, our potatoes, our green beans, and our grape tomatoes. But we're also cutting corners by using a store-prepared pesto. Now, another way that I've made this, which I think would be equally as delicious and may even give you more control over your ingredients, is you could saute a little bit of fresh garlic with some olive oil and use that as your dressing as well. And then you can add in some fresh herbs. So you could do parsley, or you could do cilantro, fresh basil, which is amazing in the summer. So you can kind of do it one way or the other, depending on how much time you have and also the flavors that you and your guests enjoy most, right? So we're going to clear this off and I'm going to start bringing our potato ingredients over. So let me just make some room here. Okay. Alrighty. All right, our salmon looks really good. I don't want to put it too high because if I start getting a lot of smoke in here, it's going to get a little dicey. All right. So here's the dish that we're going to use for our potato salad. So you can use something a little bit, bigger, but I'm using this so that it's easier for you to see. And then I'm just going to grab a cutting board quickly over here. Okay. All right, here we go. So now so now we have our green beans and our potatoes. So normally in real life, I'm going to have you guys let this cool off a little bit more, but because we're doing a cooking class and I don't want you just staring at me, we're going to start working on our ingredients. Okay. So let me just grab a knife. So I like using a serrated knife, but you can use any kind of knife you like. So you see how nicely they just they're perfect. They're still a little firm, but they're cooked through. So again, you don't want them to be mushy. You want them to be still firm. Okay, so that's it. So you're just going to cut your potatoes in half and just add them to a dish. All right. Now, because our pesto is already seasoned, I'm not really going to be adding any additional salt and pepper. That's just a personal preference. If you feel like, you should always taste your food. So this is something when I talk to newer cooks, some of my younger shoppers are unsure, when do I know how to season my food? Well, you have to taste it, right? You obviously want to taste cooked food. We don't want to taste our food uncooked. But when a recipe says season to taste, that the true definition of that is you want to taste your food and then season it. So you kind of have to wait almost to the end to really get an assessment of does it need salt. And again, it's a personal preference. I find that the store prepared pesto is enough for me and my family. So I probably wouldn't add, any more salt and pepper. Okay. So that's the potatoes, really simple. You're just cutting them in half, nothing too strenuous. Let me turn these over. Okay. So, oh boy, these look so good. So I'm going to show these to you in just a minute, but they're looking really awesome. So there we go. They're pretty easy to turn over. Perfect. Okay. So now I like my salmon cooked through. Again, personal preference. I don't personally like it under, but that's just something that, you think about how you like your salmon done. Now the green beans. So with the green beans, again, we want them to be sort of blanched, not overly done. You're just going to grab them sort of like a little bouquet, right? Here's your flowers. And I'm just going to cut them into thirds. And that'll make it so much easier for your guests to enjoy your salad. If they're too long, then when you go to eat them with your fork, I think it can be a little bit awkward. So I think cutting the green beans into thirds is just perfect for this type of salad. So there we go. Now, green beans are a low starch veggie. So sometimes people hear, oh, beans, is it like a starchy veggie like cannellini beans or like red beans or black beans? And they're actually not. These are low starch or a non-starchy veggie. So you don't have to count them as a carbohydrate. If you're someone who's managing diabetes or your blood sugar, then you can just count them as a regular non-starchy veggie. Okay, just a little tip there. These are things that I hear through my travels and speaking with different consumers and throughout the years. So I always like to add in those tidbits because I always say, don't be afraid to ask a question. If you have a question, I bet you 9 times out of 10, there are so many other people who have the same question, right? So I do see a question pop up in the comments. So I'm going to go over and check it out so that we can get it answered and see what we're thinking. Okay. Or maybe it's just a comment. We'll see. All right. So as you can see, I'm right over here. All right. So we have which bottled pesto is best, not loving mine. Okay. We'll talk about that. With summer here, I can finally make my own. Yes, I know. I have to say, I'll tell you a quick little story. So I learned to cook for my mom. My mom is an amazing home cook and she kind of just is self-taught. And she loves making her own pesto. So I completely can relate to that. It is so delicious and so amazing to have a fresh pesto from the summer. So the one I'm using is Classico. It's just a traditional basil pesto. I'm not saying that this is the end all be all. I'm going to tell you why I particularly choose this one. The reason why I choose this one is that it doesn't have any nuts in it. There are no pine nuts. There are no walnuts. And nuts are a traditional piece or ingredient, I should say, of a pesto. My brother has a nut allergy. And we spend a lot of time together, my siblings and my parents over the summer. And so I like to have nut-free items in my home to make sure that there's no mishap. So that's personally why I choose this one. Or of course we make our own. But try different pesto, for the most part, they come in small jars. So if you want to try something different to get a feel for the flavor, I would always encourage you to look at your ingredient list to make sure that there are ingredients in there that you enjoy, right? Because every pesto is going to vary a little bit from brand to brand. So this one's just basil, soybean oil, garlic, Parmesan cheese, and olive oil, and a little bit of salt. It looks like there's in there. So those are your major ingredients that you're finding in this particular pesto. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, so our salad is looking pretty good. You know, at this point, honestly, our potatoes are like so room temperature. They're not even hot anymore. So this is perfect. And I can't wait to have this later on, to be honest with you. So I always say selfishly, when I do cooking classes, I get to enjoy the fruits of my labor later in the day, right? Okay, so here we have our potatoes. Just looking at my salmon just to make sure we're looking good over here. We are actually. It's still a little under for my taste, so I'm going to let it go another minute or so. They look great though. I'm going to show them to you in just a minute. Okay. So now we're going to add in our tomatoes. So I just used a basic, here they are, grape tomatoes. My personal favorite is Nature Sweet. This brand is found in all of our stores, and I like either the multicolored ones because, well, you know, I like extra stuff. I just like things that are interesting and fun. So I usually go for like the multicolored tomatoes, or, you know, sometimes I just happen to have all red tomatoes. There's no right or wrong. Just choose what works for you and you like. But I really like this brand, the Nature's brand. They are always sweet and always delicious. So that's what I went for on our salad. Okay. So now we're just going to add those in. Okay. Actually, yeah, I'm going to use the whole pint. So there you go. And then our last ingredient, I saved the onion for last because onions make me cry. So I always like to say when I'm doing these things, I save it for last. So hopefully there's not a lot of drama around it. Now, you want the onions to be super, super thin, like paper thin, okay? You never want anyone biting into like a really thick piece of onion. So do your best to get it as thin as possible. I've had some people say they like using a mandolin. You certainly can do that. If you have a mandolin, you could use a mandolin, or you can just eyeball it, you know, like I'm doing, okay? And then I'm just going to give it one cut down the middle so that we can sprinkle it nice over our salad. So far, this looks gorgeous and I'm super, super excited about it. So here's what we've got so far. Doesn't that look so inviting? I'm so excited to try this, okay? So now for our last step, we're going to add in our pesto. I'm just going to give the jar a little bit of a shake. Now when you get the recipe, I said to use about 2 tablespoons. Use your judgment. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons now. I think that that's plenty. But if you feel like you need more, then go ahead and add more. That is the beauty of cooking. The beauty of cooking is that you can make recipes your own based on what you enjoy. I personally feel like this is more than enough. So give that a nice toss. And voila, your potato salad is ready. No drama, super simple. You can pop it in the fridge now and it's ready to go for later on, okay? So here is the finished product. Doesn't that look awesome? It smells so, so good. Between the dill on the salmon and the pesto on our garden salad, I mean, it smells so, so good in here, okay? So we'll leave this off to the side. I see that there's another comment. We're gonna pull the salmon off because I'm pretty sure it's already done. So let me just grab a dish right here underneath. Okay. All right. Perfect. Let me just turn this off. Okay. So now on an outdoor grill, it's going to be much faster naturally because your outdoor grill is going to be able to get a lot hotter than an indoor grill pan. So just keep in mind that you'll probably need to, you know, cut the time on that. Okay. All right. Ooh, gorgeous. Smells so good. All right. Perfect. So that's it. So here's our salmon with the lemon and zucchini. You've got some nice like little charred pieces. And the lemon, when you heat up lemon, it actually makes it produce more juice. Like the juices just get a little bit more enhanced. So you'll definitely have some really, really nice flavors on here as well. Okay. So let me go over and check out our questions, and then we'll kind of tidy up a little bit. And we're actually going to be grilling our peaches next. So let me pull this pan off. And let me get the other grill pan, because I don't know about you, but I don't particularly enjoy salmon flavored peaches. I don't think that's a goal of anybody's today, right? So we're gonna put that here to start warming up. Okay, perfect. All right, awesome. Okay, so let me come over and see what we have here. Sorry for my big head. Okay. I love these tomatoes too. Yes, the little brown ones are my favorite. That's awesome. Tomatoes are so easy to grow. How long do you recommend letting the salad rest into the seasoning? Oh, okay. Yes, that's a great question. Let me head over there. Oh, oops. Okay. So I imagine you're talking about the pesto. So what I would do is, ideally, you want to make sure that your salad is at a minimum at room temperature. I wouldn't say having it like super warm is ideal, because you don't want the potatoes to start breaking down the tomatoes, because now we're getting into more of like a tomato sauce, and that's not our goal. So make sure that your potatoes and your green beans are at least at room temperature, if not cold. You could totally refrigerate those and then do everything else, the tomatoes and the onion and the pesto, last if you wanted to. So, but what I would say is, once kind of everything is together, I would refrigerate it for at least 20 minutes to make sure it's like really more like a salad versus like something that's at room temperature. So I hope that answers your question. I see that you have one more comment. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything, because sometimes we can misinterpret what people are saying. So were the green beans cooked? Yes. And yes, the green beans were cooked. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we tossed the green beans. I'll walk over to walk you through that again. So with the green beans, what we did was, when the potatoes were more than about halfway through, I went ahead and added the green beans into the boiling water so that it could start finishing that cooking process as the potatoes were finishing. So really the green beans were in there for maybe like 4 minutes, and the potatoes closer to like 8 minutes. Okay. So 8 minutes or so on the potatoes. Again, just pierce them with a fork. You want your fork to go all the way through, but you don't want the potato to be falling apart. Okay. And then you want to right away run it under cold water or put it in the ice bath so that that cooking process stops. Okay. So I hope that answers your question there. All right, so let's start moving over into dessert world. And we do have to move some of these items over. This is nice and hot. All right, that's the beauty of a cutting board. You can just turn it over and use the other side. Okay, so now we have some fresh peaches. I think they're ripe enough to grill, and I'll show you what we have here. So we have fresh peaches here. I have just a Chobani plain fat-free yogurt. If you prefer a full fat or like a 2%, that's totally going to work. But I think plain works well with this, because you don't want a flavored yogurt to mask the flavor that you're getting from your peaches. You could also do this recipe with pineapple. Grilled pineapple is also really, really delicious. And then I'm just going to season our yogurt with a little bit of honey and a little bit of cinnamon. So the first thing we need to do is, so these are already washed. As with any fruit and veggie, you always want to make sure that you are washing your fruits and veggies before you begin. Just pop out that seed in the center. Okay. If you have so sometimes the seeds pop right out. Sometimes you have to dig for them. If you're going to need to dig for the pit, just make sure you're using like a paring knife. So you don't want to use like an overly big knife, because you won't have as much control. Okay. So that's more of like a safety issue. All right. So then with your pan, just give it a little bit of a sprig or of course, ideally, you're gonna be outside doing that. And you can kind of hear that sizzle going right away. All right, so let's go on with the rest of our peaches here. Oh, these are so soft. It's literally popping right out. This one looks a little bit trickier. There we go. Okay, so that goes there. And then our third one. All right. Ooh. Oh yeah, this one is definitely not as ripe. Okay, so we'll just use the other side. All right, perfect. Okay, so then while that's going, we're gonna do our yogurt. So I'm just gonna use just a little bit of a pinch of cinnamon. And I think about a teaspoon of our honey works well here. So, oops, go ahead. Wow, that came out really fast. That was like unexpected. All right. Okay, so while these are cooking, any questions or anything else that I might have missed that you wanted to learn about or hear about today with today's recipes? I do see the comment box open. You can also raise your hand, or now's a good time, actually, if you want to unmute yourself to ask a question, you're certainly welcome to. This is the only time I'm going to say, go ahead and do that, because now we're kind of towards the end. Anybody? No? Okay, I'm going to go over and check that out then. Let's see.
Are these recipes going to be posted somewhere?
Yes, great question. So I will be sending them to you through the email that you registered with.
Oh, great.
Oh, yep. So you'll also get the recording in case you want to watch it again, or maybe you want to just, you can always fast forward to a place that, you might have missed or want to rewatch. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's very interesting. I appreciate
Oh,
it.
good. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. Okay. So questions and comments. If I'm not a dill lover, how would parsley or rosemary go? Great question. I prefer the firmer rather than the soft peaches. Does it matter? Great question. We'll get all this answered. And can the beans and potatoes be stir fried? Oh, great question. Okay. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So hopefully I remembered all those three things. If you don't love dill, you could easily substitute a parsley or a cilantro. Rosemary, I think, would work too. Just remember that rosemary is a little bit of a tougher herb. So it's not going to, it might sit like on top of the salmon and be a little bit like crispy. But if you really are a rosemary lover, go for it and try it out. It's definitely not going to taste bad. Rosemary is a wonderful herb. But my gut says parsley or cilantro is going to be the next best herb. And then, yeah, try rosemary and see if you like that. The next question was, I think, around the firmer peaches. It matters to the degree of how much sweetness you like. So a softer peach is, so you can see they're already done. So a softer peach, the sugars are going to develop a lot sweeter. Whereas like a more firm peach where it's a little bit underripe, it's not going to be as sweet. So actually, it's so funny. So this one, they're right next to each other. So this one you can see is a little bit more underripe and it hasn't like crisped up the same way. And it mainly just has to do with the sugars developing. So I would say that it's more personal preference. If you want it to be softer and sweeter, go with a more ripe peach. If you do like the firmness, then yeah, 100% go with a more firm peach. It just won't, be as soft, that's all, or as sweet. Okay. But don't forget, we still have our dressing. So that's going to add a lot of sweetness to it as well. Okay. And then can the beans and the potatoes be stir fried? Yes, I don't see why not. Right. So let's take this to another level. Let's say we parboiled our potatoes, which means we boiled them about halfway through. And then you can throw them on a pan and either pop them in the oven at high heat to get them crisped up. Same thing with the green beans, or you can stir fry them, saute them, and then start working on your salad from that place as well. I think that would be amazing. And it would definitely change it would add like another layer of flavor to, to your salad. So that's a really great question. I love that. Okay, so our peaches are looking pretty good. So we're going to turn them over. And just in the interest of time, we're going to start plating them so that you know what they're going to look like when you have them for your guests. Or for tonight, right? Why not make them tonight? Okay, so when you take your peaches off the grill, they should have, again, that nice caramelization that occurred through the cooking process. You can add a little bit of cinnamon at this point if you wanted to. I love cinnamon, so I'm like all about it. So you can add a little bit of cinnamon, and then you're just gonna do like a little bit of dollop of yogurt on each. And then of course, why not a little tiny bit of honey just to kind of finish it off. I know they're going to get sticky, but I want you to be able to see them. Don't those look delicious? Oh my gosh, you could easily bite right into them and, enjoy them right away. Whether you like them a little bit colder, just let them hang out. Or if you like them warm right off the pan, that is totally okay. Either way is delicious. If you want to have something a little bit more indulgent, you could do a frozen yogurt or a frozen like ice cream, like a vanilla ice cream or a frozen yogurt would also work really well with this recipe too. Okay. So that's it for today, everybody. I hope you are ready for summer and you are going to possibly enjoy some of these recipes at your next get together, or maybe you're just going to make it for dinner one night this week. That works really great as well. I so appreciate you being here, and I'm so excited to bring you our next cooking class, which will be July 12th. It's a Wednesday. And what I'm planning on doing for that, if I can remember, because I just planned it yesterday, the sign up is already up. I believe we're going to be doing Too Hot to Cook. So it's funny, we're going to be doing a cooking class, but we're not really heating anything up for the most part. It'll be really, really minimal cooking because in the summer, we love things to be a little bit more cool, less time in the kitchen, less time over a hot stove because we don't need another heat wave, and a little bit more time making some fresher, delicious ingredients that kind of meet us in that summer phase where we would just want to enjoy being outside rather than in a hot kitchen, like in the winter, right? So thank you again. So you will receive an email with today's recording as well as the recipes. You will be getting also a survey. It's just a few questions, and personally, it helps me identify what you're looking for, if you got anything out of today, and it really helps me plan for the next event. So I truly appreciate you responding to that if you can. And thanks again. I will see you in a few weeks at our next class, and feel free to drop any more questions in the inbox. I'm happy to stick around and answer anything that you have. All right, take care. Okay, sorry. Yes, I will send the, yes, you could use nectarines, 100%, totally. Nectarines work great. Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. You're welcome. Yes, I'll put in the link for the July sign up so that you have it in your inbox, okay? All right, everybody, have a great day. I'll see you soon. Bye.